Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's morning musings is Dead People Aren't Gone. I'm doing a series of daily morning musings, and I'm using posts from my blog, Adventures in Density and Effort, as inspiration. Now, I wrote these a few years back, and the world has completely changed since then. So if I encounter anything that is out of date, I will interrupt myself and give you the most recent information. At the end, I will summarize the topic based on what's going on in the world today. Also, I have some special offers, so stay tuned to the very end to see what they are. Dead people aren't gone. The other morning, just before I was quite awake, someone who had died a few years back came into my consciousness. I'd had an interaction with him. I couldn't call it a conversation as no words were exchanged. I felt his energy and presence. I identified who it was. I got the impression from him that he had been pleased by a gift I had given him. As I was just waking up, I couldn't remember how I'd given the gift to him. I could only remember that he directed a play I was in during a significant time for me. Much later, I discovered he'd been diagnosed with cancer at the same time, which he'd struggled with for years afterwards. I remembered the gift and that I'd gotten it in England, but I hadn't gone to England while I was in that play. Then I recalled another play he'd directed, but it wasn't then either. Finally, I uncovered my memory. It was at a class at our local arts center. That was when I went to England, and I'd gotten him a little book of Shakespearean insults. Then there was an impression of his home, but I hadn't ever been there. And then I realized I must have gone there for a cast party. I just can't remember which one. This interaction went on for a while, and I felt him in my consciousness. It was different than when I do readings. When I read for others, I do it visually, so it's removed from me. This had no boundaries. It moved in and out. It brought up things I hadn't remembered. It was emotional and intimate. It was a new level of awareness for me with people who had passed. What I know is the dead aren't gone. They're still there, or they're still here. They've just disappeared from view, but not from consciousness. I like to say they're easier to talk to, but harder to hear. You have to use senses other than your ears and eyes to get impressions from them. I also know they appreciate being acknowledged and communicated with. You're not crazy if you talk with dead people. And if you write down the impressions that you're being given by them, when you read it later, you know you couldn't have possibly made it up. In my sphere of friends and acquaintances, several people have died recently, or in the process of dying. I did energy work for several of them. It didn't change their dying, but perhaps it changed their experience of it. When you shift to the other side, there are no ethics about death. There is no good or bad. It's easier to perceive with animals, but it is the same for humans. There is no time in the non-physical, so how many years old you were when you passed has no significance. There's also a release of energy when you pass. I noticed it more significantly when Princess Diana died. Her light really did circle the globe. And recently, I read about a brilliant street photographer whose 100,000 photographs weren't discovered until after she died. While she was in personality, she wouldn't have shared them with anyone. Once she died, her life's work, energy, creativity was released into the world. What interferes with communication with the other side is our own grief and preconceived notions about death. If you believe they cease to exist, it invalidates their existence. Grieving is a natural reaction, our body's response to death. Our bodies are very attached to this physical reality because our bodies aren't going to make it out of this lifetime alive. Our body needs to release all that energy, emotion, mourn the loss of the physical connection. As you grieve, you clear the blocks to feeling, sensing, and being aware of the being who you love. This is all a creation of consciousness, who you are at your most expanded level. It's deliciously complex and simple at the same time. I invite you to be bigger than you are, and for reality to be vaster than you can imagine. Open your awareness to the unseen and the non-physical and notice how much richer your life becomes. And leave me a note in the comments because I love to read your comments. This is so interesting because I wrote this about 5 or 6 months before I went out to help my mother with Alzheimer's, and she hadn't even been diagnosed yet. And while I was there, she fell and broke her pelvis, and then they found she had lung cancer. And I just ended up hunkering down there, midwifing her back to spirit. Although I'd had some of these experiences with people dying that I share here, I hadn't been walking through the process with someone yet. I was obviously preparing and I didn't know. So I had the experience of being with my mother when she passed, and then my father passed 11 months later. I would have to say that all of this is still really, really valid. And for me now, it's a much more three-dimensional experience. I mean, I still experience my mother every day. I actually had an impression of her in this last few days where she basically communicated to me how she was really enjoying my life. it was kind of like she's watching this all on TV wherever she's at. So she really liked to watch TV, and she did a lot of needlepoint and left us with so many pillows that was distributed amongst all the family and grandchildren and things. So where was I? We're all connected on the non-physical, even while the bodies are gone. The part that hurts the most is your body missing that body. However, when you can connect on the non-physical or with the non-physical, you can sense their presence. You can talk to them. They love being talked to. It can definitely ease the pain, and the relationship can grow to being something completely different that you couldn't have possibly have imagined. So if you like these videos, please share them with your family and friends, and also click the like button and subscribe. And when you do both of those things, it tells YouTube to share this far and wide and get this out to people who really need to see this information. And if you'd like a free sample of one of my consciousness techniques, click on the link below to the skybox technique. It'll give you an expanded perspective of your life and really help you understand you as consciousness and the reality that you're creating. If you'd like to have some manifestation techniques, Manifesting Money and Miracles is my self-study course where you can learn how to use energy to completely transform your life. And if you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. There you can learn about my private sessions where I take a look at the essence of who you are and what's going on in your life today. And I can answer any questions that you might have. And it's all recorded just for you. And if you want to learn how to do this for yourself, Manifesting Money and Miracles is a great preparation for my coaching special where I work with you one-on-one and I give you specially chosen consciousness techniques from my personal list of consciousness techniques that I've created so that you can transform your life. And you can find out more at my website, joan-newcomb.com, and I'll see you tomorrow for another Morning Musings.